7, 6, 5. Wow. Whoo! All right, everybody. What's good? What's good? What's good? Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what time it is. You know who it is. It is me, Joe Nice DJ, live and direct on a March 22nd, 2021, March 22, 2021, March 222021, going old school with the naming of the date as we like to do because that is how we do it. This is how we do it. It is Monday afternoon. It is not Friday night out to Montel Jordan. Want to get on here and chat with everybody, engage a bit more. I've been a bit reclusive. I've been a bit in my shell, or as my ex-girlfriend, my loving ex-girlfriend would say at times, under a cabbage leaf. I've felt like keeping a low profile. I haven't had much to say of any noteworthy value or of any importance, but now I feel I have a bit more to say because, it is what it is. First of all, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody that's watching right now. There are two of you. There will be more because this is what it is. We start off early and we slowly build the momentum. We are that snowball that rolls downhill. Special guest Eric, 1/3 of the best in the business right now in what we call dubstep, Turnian sound. He said, let's go. For my French-speaking people, allez. Allons-y, actually. Allons-y. For my Spanish-speaking people, vámonos. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Today is March 22, 2021. And I was reminding of this when I was watching the news this morning. And again, as I've said before, I watch a quote unquote, and that's for me, not from anybody else, an unhealthy amount of news during the day. I turn on my phone. It's usually hooked up to France 24 in the morning. I do watch my share of Euronews. I watch CNA in Singapore, CCTM, which is a Chinese news organization. I do watch DW, Deutsche Welle, which is a German news organization, TRT World, which is Turkish. And every once in a while, I'll flip on Euronews to see what's cooking over there. And I was reminded today, and RT, I do like RT and Telesur. And I was reminded today that today is 5 years since the terrorist bombings in Brussels, Belgium's airport. Brussels, Belgium airport, otherwise known as Zaventem Airport. And if anyone has ever flown in and out of Brussels airport, it is a wonderful airport. It's a great airport. And there's also Brussels South Airport. Brussels South is in a city called Charleroi. It's called Brussels South, but Charleroi is actually nowhere near Brussels. It's nowhere near. It's a good 30 to 40-minute drive away and probably the same amount of time on a train away from Zaventem Airport, which I think is northwest of Brussels. So it's a bit of a thing. Just to kind of give you an idea of what March 22, 2016 looked like for yours truly. I was living in downtown Baltimore at the time. And my divorce was, let me think, December. I was 3 months past my divorce. So my divorce was still relatively fresh. There's a whole lot with that also, especially, there's a whole lot with that. We'll just leave it at that for the time being. I was in grad school at the University of Baltimore, and I was on tour in Europe at that time. I was touring Europe, as I'd like to do, because my spring break coincided with my class schedule. And both the classes I was doing in my 4th semester of graduate school at the University of Baltimore were online classes. I do not remember. I know one of the classes I was taking was public program evaluation, which is one of the hardest classes I've ever taken. And I took a leadership course, I think, at that 2nd semester also. So it was a whole lot of reading, and I still have the books over here in the corner. And I did a tour, and I was like, you know what? Let me lock in a little tour here and there and see what I can do. Turns out the tour ended up being a little bit more than a little. It actually was quite decent. It was a little better than decent, actually. I left America on March 15th, which was a Tuesday. I ended up flying into Germany on March 16th, hung out in Cologne, Germany on March 17th, then played Dusseldorf, Germany on my birthday at the Cube, out to Penelope and the crew at the Cube. Always a good time at the Cube. Next day, played in Berlin, and I think that was the night I played at the Bergschnabel. It was myself, Etch, a bunch of us were there that night. That was on the 18th. The 19th of March was Hamburg, Germany at the Hafenklang. Always a magnificent time at the Hafenklang. If you know anything about Hamburg, Germany and the Hafenklang, if you can try to play there, do it. It's a wonderful venue. And the flea market and the outdoor market that they have in front of, on that cobblestone street in front of the Hafenklang, always a good time, especially 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning after you've had several adult beverages and you're looking for something to eat before you go to sleep. So I did those 3 shows in 3 days, took the train wherever I needed to go. That was it. Monday, I had off. And Monday, I flew to Ljubljana, Slovenia. And many of you understand that I've been in and out of France quite a bit, and I've been deeply invested in the Gilets Jaunes movement and the Gilets Noirs movement and the need to have worker strikes across the United States and to support countries that wear yellow vests and black vests in their fights for humanity, freedom, equality, and survival. Of course, on March 20th, there was an airport worker strike in Paris on that day. And I vividly remember it wasn't just an airport strike, it was a baggage handler strike. The baggage handlers were like, we're not getting paid enough. We don't like these long hours. We don't like working in the cold. We don't like we need ear protection. We need gloves. We're going on strike. So a bunch of flights got delayed in and out of Paris that day. So I remember taking the train super early in the morning from where I was staying in Hamburg, caught the plane out of Hamburg's airport to Paris, Charles de Gaulle Airport, then flew into Ljubljana, Slovenia, and played the show in Ljubljana that night. And that show was vibes, and out to the Channel Zero Metallica crew, out to the Dub Diggers, out to Masha, out to Dejan, out to Skoro, and out to my brother, Dr. Albert, the living legend. Everybody that knows about Ljubljana, Slovenia knows that I get down in Ljubljana at any time. Out to Feder, out to Petar, out to everybody in Ljubljana. You know what it is. So, and you know when you go on a tour, you typically you make your travel arrangements weeks or in some cases months in advance. So I knew that when I had that show on Monday, I was going to have Tuesday off, but then I had 5 shows in a row in 5 different cities. And when I know I'm going to have a run of shows, the one thing that I don't want to do is to travel on the day of that first show in that run of shows. I'd like to travel on a day off. That way I have time to relax, acclimate myself, stretch out, maybe get a workout in, get some good food, maybe champagne and campaign or slice and dice as I'd like to do in the past, and then play the show and then keeping everything moving. So when me and the promoter, Ed was the guy that used to manage the shows in Ghent, Belgium for Rotation Dubstep at a venue called Decadence. And if you know anything about those Wednesday nights in Ghent, wow, it's that back room, all the cigarette smoke, that tiny booth, you know what it was back then. You know what it was. So Ed and I were looking for plane tickets, and this is probably early February. We're looking for plane tickets, and the flights going from Ljubljana to Brussels, Belgium were, they were something like 330 euros one way for a one-way ticket. And that was on Tuesday because I was going to fly on Tuesday. And I've done that Tuesday morning flight on Adria Airways out of Ljubljana up to Ghent, Belgium, because I've done that route a bunch of times. So I know the cost. It's a 7:40 a.m. flight. It's an hour and 45-minute flight, drops you off into Brussels Airport about 9:30, 9:40 in the morning. You get out of Brussels Airport, take the train over to Ghent St. Peter's. You're in downtown Ghent by 11:30. Relatively easy process. This isn't like traveling from Newark, New Jersey to Hong Kong. It's not some 16-hour journey. It's an easy, straightforward process. Tickets were 300 euros. And he was like, yo, that's way above the budget. I'm like, all right, what's next? So we ended up having to take a flight. I ended up booking a plane ticket on Wednesday afternoon, I think at 4:30. Ended up getting into Brussels at 6:15. Trains and everything else get me into Ghent around 8 o'clock. Show's not going on till about 11:30, 12 o'clock. So we're cooking. So me, Skoro, and Dr. Albert, we're hanging out at Dr. Albert's house after the show on Monday night. And it's 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. And we're still hanging out. We're getting the adult beverages in. And I'm like, yo, I got to get some sleep. So I go to sleep. 6 o'clock, 6:30, I'm passed out. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. And where Dr. Albert lives, he lives kind of a bit outside of Ljubljana. And there's a bunch of fields nearby. And every once in a while, you hear some chickens and you hear some roosters doing what roosters do at an early time in the morning. So I'm hearing roosters doing what they're doing. right? I'm like, oh, damn, what the hell? Look at my phone. It's 9 o'clock. I get some water, take a sip of water, stretch a little bit, go back to sleep. It's 9:30 in the morning, 9:30, maybe 9:40 in the morning. My phone was buzzing. Zzz, zzz, and it was just wouldn't stop buzzing. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Jesus. So I wake up. Then I get a phone call. It's my mom. My mom's calling me. And again, it's 9:35. It's coming up on 10 o'clock. Joseph, where are ya? I'm like, yo, mom, I just woke up. I'm in Ljubljana, Slovenia. Are you're going to Belgium anytime soon? I'm like, yeah, I'm going there tonight. You hear they bombed the airport? I'm like, what? They bombed the airport? What are you talking about? I'm like, hold on, ma, hold on. So I look on my phone, I pull up Twitter, everything's about the airport bombing. I go to the internet, jump on Google, airport's bombed out. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. What the hell? I'm like, yo, mom, I'm okay. Let me call you back. So the messages that I had were from a bunch of people that were coming to see me from Ghent and Brussels and other cities in Belgium that were like, yo, the airport's just got bombed. What the hell's going on? What are you gonna do? And I'm like, shit, fuck if I know. I just woke up. I just woke up. What do you mean? I don't know. So I called the airport. Nobody's answering the phones at the airport because the airport just was involved in a terrorist attack, and one of the train stations not too far away was also bombed. So I said, all right, let me try to figure something out because I got to get to Belgium sometime, and I got to get there before Wednesday night because I got to play Wednesday night. So Tuesday, nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. Nothing going on. Everything shut down. The airport shut down. No flights getting in. No flights getting out for that Tuesday. I said, damn, all right, I'm stuck. I'm not going to make it up there. And then everything else in terms of the sequence of the travel was booked shortly thereafter. So nothing was going to happen. So I ended up playing a radio show, me and the Dub Diggers, out to Mark, out to Daniel, each and every, out to Polly, photographer Polly. We ended up playing a show, doing a radio show in downtown Ljubljana, Slovenia at this restaurant. Good, great time. I can't remember the name of the place, but it's downtown. You know where it is. I just can't think of it. It's right near a really nice falafel shop, and you know I'm the king of falafels. So played the show Tuesday. Wednesday, I'm scrambling, trying to rebook tickets, reorganize tickets, trying to figure stuff out. Of course, Dr. Albert, being who he is, one of his good friends is a travel agent, and she hooked it up. Turns out I ended up having to fly into Amsterdam. And Amsterdam, in terms of distance, is farther than Brussels, but in terms of a flight distance, it's only adding 15 minutes to the flight. So it makes an hour, 45-minute flight, right on the dot, 2-hour flight. So, and then and the previous promoter that used to promote the shows at Rotation Dubstep, Fred, who lives in Rotterdam, was coming to go down to the show. And he knew that I was having trouble getting into Belgium by air because of the terrorist attack. So flew into Amsterdam. Flight left Ljubljana 6:30. Ended up getting to Amsterdam 8:30. Took a train from Amsterdam down to Rotterdam. Then me and Fred drove to Ghent from Rotterdam, which is not a quick drive. We drove. I went straight from the car to the club. Played the show. It was a banger. Big night that night. Pace was jam packed. And people were like, Joe, my God, Joe, you made it. What the hell? How'd you make it? I'm like, yo, look, Fred hooked it up. Plane tickets, we organized. We sliced and diced. We did what we did. So, and then I ended up staying at my guy Olivier's place. And Olivier does not live in Ghent. He's in Ostend, which is not close to Ghent. So I ended up staying out there. And then I knew I had to get to Rotterdam sometime late afternoon, early evening, because I was playing Rotterdam that night. So we drive out to Ostend after the show from Ghent. I'm sleeping at his place. I wake up. I'm like, yo, it's about 11. Let me start making some moves to get over from Ostend to Ghent, St. Peter's, Ghent, figure our way out to Rotterdam so I could play the show that night. So Ostend to Ghent, St. Peter's. The next day in Ghent, St. Peter's train station, it was military personnel walking around with large guns, large rifles, guns on the holsters, on the thighs. This was top level security. And they were checking people's bags as you walked into the train station. Um, I vividly remember one guy, one lady, actually it was a lady, looking at my bag, and my bag has all these flags on it from all the countries that I've been. She looks at my bag, she waves me over, she says, alsjeblieft, which is Dutch for please. And I'm like, "Yo, that's about the extent of my knowledge in Dutch. Alsjeblieft. And the dude next to her was like, open your bag. I'm like, all right, word up. Right? Open my bag, show me those records. She goes, what are these? I said, the records. I'm a DJ. Oh, okay. Have fun. So I get on the train, go up to Antwerp, Belgium's airport. Not airport, Antwerp's train station. If you've ever been to Antwerp's train station, it's one of the most picturesque, beautiful train stations you would ever want to visit in your life. It's a magnificent place to catch a train. It's gorgeous. Amsterdam's train station is. The Berlin Hauptbahnhof in Berlin, the main train station in Berlin, next to the Charité Hospital, another great train station. Amsterdam Centraal in Amsterdam, another great train station. But yeah, that train station at Antwerp is gorgeous. So, and there's multiple levels in the train station, and in most instances, the trains that are crossing an international border are all the way down at the bottom of the train station, and you got to get down there either by elevator or you're taking multiple escalators to get down there. So so this is the bottom train. It's like track 22 or 23 or something. So we get on the train, and I'm on one of these international trains from Antwerp, Belgium to Rotterdam, Netherlands. We are 2 stops along the train, 2 stops, maybe 3. We stopped. We're stopped for 15 minutes, and we're not at a train stop. We're just stopped on the middle of the track. We're stopped. And it's like, what's going on here? What it is? They're like, yeah, due to the terrorist attack, there's an electrical problem on the train line going from here, ending at Amsterdam Centraal, because it's one train line that goes from Amsterdam from Antwerp all the way up to Amsterdam. Same train line, take it all the way up. Like, yeah, everybody, and there's an electrical problem that's causing a switch issue. We can no longer travel any further on this train line. Everybody must disembark the train. Like, what? You gotta get off this train? What you mean? So everybody's off the train. So there's a blockage that's about 5 to 10 kilometers ahead of where the train stopped. Once we get around that blockage, we can kind of continue on a little bit further, but there's no way to fix that quickly. So this is maybe a 2.5 hour train ride going from Amsterdam, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hour train ride going from Antwerp up to Rotterdam. It's not far. It's just not. It's not far. I ended up having to get off the train, go back to Antwerp. They put us on buses to another bus station, to a local train station, another local train, and then a bus to get around this blockage. Then we took another train to go up to Rotterdam. A 2 hour journey took the better part of almost 7 hours. Needless to say, I was pissed. And this is after being on a train from Ostend to Ghent St. Peter's, and then from Ghent to Antwerp, and then everything else that I had to do to get up to Rotterdam. Played the show in Rotterdam, big night in Rotterdam, out to Olaf and everybody else, and out to Jeffrey Nikon, who hooked me up. Good times out there. And out to Daniel Dubsworth. He was there that night too. Danny Dubs was a living legend. He was out there too. So next day, I'm supposed to fly from Rotterdam's air. Actually, no. I'm supposed to fly from, oh gosh, where am I supposed to fly from? I'm trying to remember. From Eindhoven. I'm supposed to fly from Eindhoven's airport to Budapest, Hungary, because it's now Friday night. I've got a show in Budapest, Hungary on Friday night. I'm on this train at some ungodly hour in the morning. And I mean early. There's nobody in the train station except the train workers, the train station workers. And they're wearing these neatly pressed and ironed uniforms. They're going about their business. So I walk in and I'm like, okay, can I get the train to Venlo? Because I'm supposed to change stops in Venlo and then go over to Eindhoven. That's what the directions said. They're like, yeah, platform 6. So I get on platform 6 and I'm on the train. And you know how when after a couple of shows, you start to get really sleepy and you're not sure where you are, but you're still kind of coherent? That was me on the train. I'm like, I'm awake, but I'm like not awake, but I'm paying attention. And I'm like, okay, where the hell is this Venlo stop? Where's this Venlo stop? And I'm looking on the little screen a few seats away from me that shows you the key or the legend of where everything, all the stops are. I'm like, there's no Venlo stop here. What the hell? How am I going to get to Eindhoven? Turns out the train took me in a circle back to where I got dropped off. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm going to miss this flight. And the flight was at 11. Here it is, 9:15, and I'm pulling back into the train station. And I've been on this train for the better part of about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, just going in a circle. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way. So I ended up missing the flight. So I ended up having to cancel that flight and book another flight going out of Rotterdam's airport to Vienna, Austria. You're like, well, Joe, why Vienna? Because I was playing Vienna on Friday night, and Mario from Base Trace, and out to Mario, out to his lovely, and I do mean lovely wife, Marina, out to Lucas, out to Ronya, out to George, out to everybody in Vienna, Austria. He was going to go to the show anyway on Friday night in Budapest, Hungary, because I was playing in Vienna on Saturday and on Sunday, 2 different shows on Saturday and Sunday. So ended up flying out to Vienna, Austria, and then Mario picked me up from the airport, and then we drove from Vienna's airport to Budapest. And Vienna's airport is actually not in Vienna proper. It's not like in the city. It's, I'm trying to remember, southeast of the city. So it cuts down on the drive time going from the airport to downtown Budapest by about a good half an hour. So it's about maybe a 2 hour and 15-minute drive from the airport in Vienna to downtown Budapest, Hungary. Played the show there, slept it off, had a great night on that big sound system. It was the Dub Phase sound system. Out to Matty and the boys out there at that cultural center in downtown Budapest, Hungary. Vibes forever. Out to the little kids that I was talking to, and we were talking about basketball. It was a really fun night that night. And then next morning, we got it back in the little hatchback, back up the road along the parallel to the Danube River, and then back to Vienna, Austria, climbed up those steps to Mario's place in downtown, a couple of stops away from the Stephansdom, which is St. Stephen's Cathedral in downtown Vienna, Austria. Played the Saturday night show, and I think it was at the Flugwanne, big venue on the Modulus sound system. Oh, we ripped it that night. That was a big one. And then the next night, played another show in Vienna at this multi-room, massive 2,000-person venue called Arena. About 4 or 5 different rooms, and it was Easter Sunday that day. So, and if you've ever been to Vienna, Austria, Vienna's got loads of churches, just churches everywhere. But the word for church or cathedral in German is the word Dom, D-O-M, Dom. So if you've ever been to Cologne, Germany, and you get out of the train station in Cologne, Germany, and you walk out of the train station, you look to the left, you see this big church or cathedral. It's the Cologner Dome. Or if you're in Vienna, Austria, and you get off at the Stephansdom stop, that is the St. Stephen's Cathedral. You can't miss it. Big cathedral. It's right there. Dome. So Sunday night, played the show there. It was amazing. Great night. And I got to tell you, the green room at Arena is the greatest green room I've ever been to. And I've been to some really nice green rooms. The liquor store in Portland, Oregon, it's got a great green room. Black Box in Denver, Colorado, magnificent green room. The Cervantes Ballroom in Denver, that green room with all the records on the wall, another great green room. I got to tell you, another fun green room is the backstage area at Channel Zero Metallica in Ljubljana. Awesome green room. Got that little space heater. It's always a bowl of tangerines and some apples and some chips. The bottled waters are always there. Always a good time there. Always a great green room. But this green room at Arena, they had an entire spread of vegetables. Just it looked like a salad bar. Looked like a salad bar at a local restaurant. It looked, seriously, just a massive salad bar, like at a grocery store. It was huge. They also had a table. It's like a 4 by 4 foot table of just fixings for falafels. They had a falafel maker, they had the fryer, they had the little scoop, they had the falafel mix, they had hummus, they had tahini, they had red pepper sauce, they had everything there, just right there. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Oh my God, they really did this in this place. And there was another box, just another case of just adult beverages. Just a whole other case of it. So I'm like, okay, wow. I've got 7 Year Havana Club rum. I've got Coke in a glass bottle. I've got ice. I've got plastic cups, and I've got falafel. What the hell else do I need now? Jesus. So I'm doing my thing. I'm going in. Next day, I'm like, all right, I got to fly back to the United States because I got school. I've got my internship. I got some stuff I got to take care of. I've got a daughter that I'd like to spend time with and push in the swings and go to her basketball practices and everything else. So flew back to America on Monday the 28th. And that whole ceremony that I saw this morning reminded me of all of that and all of the time that I spent in the venues and all of the time that I spent in airports. And then it also reminded me on this date last year, I was beginning to make my journey home. Well, I shouldn't even say home, but my journey back to the United States. My journey back to the United States, because the week before I was in Sarajevo, Bosnia, and that was the last show that I've played since this pandemic has begun. And what a crazy time that was. Ended up playing that show on the rooftop in downtown Sarajevo. And then later that night, my friend Ida, she has a cabin in the mountains about 30 minutes south of downtown Sarajevo. And then she was like, "Hey, you want to play another show?" I'm like, "Why not, man? Let's let the good times roll." So um, me, Vedran, Ajin, Irvin, Ennis, Amir, Emir, everybody. We packed up the entire sound system, put in a bunch of different cars, and we drove out to Edith's cabin. Drove out to the cabin. It starts snowing. And this is March 15th now, because it's past midnight. Now, March 15th, it's like Sunday morning. And we're like, all right, let's hook up everything. Let's put everything together. Let's put the sound system in. We got it in this cabin, and we start playing. We're playing music till something like 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning. We're like, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock. Sun's now starting to come up. Snow starting to fall a little bit. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, Jesus, I haven't slept. I'm dead, but I'm feeling good. So played the show, hung out, did our thing, had my birthday over there, and then it was time to come back to the United States. On March 21st at, gosh, what was it? The flight, I think, what left Sarajevo at 8:30 in the evening. That was the last flight out of that airport for a month. So when I got on that Turkish Airlines flight from Sarajevo to Istanbul Airport, the new Istanbul Airport on the European side, that was it. They shut the airport down. There were cab drivers that were just like, we're done. We're not going to be back here for a while. Everything was shut down. And earlier that evening, my friend Nanad and Irvin, they interviewed me for one of their magazines. We still haven't published that interview yet. It's a video interview. We're going to put that out on the streets sometime soon, because it's crazy how much stuff that we talked about that day, not knowing how this pandemic was going to affect all of our lives 366 days later. So we're going to put that interview is coming. It's coming. It'll probably be out maybe tomorrow, sometime this week, but we'll let everybody know where it is, and I'll post it on all my social media outlets. But flew to Istanbul, Turkey's airport. And at this time, the rest of the world was beginning to shut down. Everything was beginning to close up. It was like, okay, well, how is anything going to be open? And if you scroll through my Instagram feed from this time last year, you'll see just brief videos of me showing the flight boards and just canceled flights all around the world, everywhere. You name it. If it was in Europe, the world had shut down. Flights were just canceled everywhere. And it wasn't just Europe. There were flights going to cities in Africa, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Entebbe, Uganda, uh, Abidjan, Ivory Coast, Abuja, Nigeria, Libreville, Gabon, you know, Brazzaville, Congo, you name it. There were flights all over the place. Kinshasa, DRC. Actually, it's Kinshasa, Congo, Brazzaville, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Bangui, Central African Republic. You name it. Asmara, Eritrea. There were flights all over Africa that were canceled. Flights just everywhere. And there were some obvious looking African dudes wearing African garb, speaking Swahili or Lingala or Sango that were like, yo, we're not getting back to Africa anytime soon. There were a whole bunch of white folks in Istanbul, Turkey that were looking to maybe go back to Berlin, Germany, or Strasbourg, France, or Lisbon, Portugal. And they were like, yo, we're not going anywhere either. No one's going anywhere. And it just canceled. Just flights all over the place. You name it, all over the world. Just everything shut down. So my flight was leaving on Sunday afternoon at 3:30. Sunday afternoon. My flight left Sarajevo Saturday, 8:30 at night. And my flight's leaving from Istanbul, Turkey, back to Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. at 3:30 in the afternoon. And there was some question on whether my flight was actually going to leave at that time because nobody knew anything. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And it's also part of European law that if you are stranded in the airport for more than 12 hours, the airline must compensate you with hotel accommodations. Here's the problem with that. If you've ever been to the new Istanbul airport, not the old Istanbul airport on the European side, which is now strictly for cargo, but the new Istanbul airport, which had loads of its share of controversy because of the amount of people that died in the result of making building that airport and the exorbitant cost of building that airport. And quite honestly, just the sheer size of that airport. That new Istanbul airport on the European side, that might be the biggest airport I've been to. Not the busiest, but the biggest. It's just massive. You're just walking for kilometers just to go from place to place. It's huge. It's nice. It's super clean, but it's just big. It's a big frigging airport. It's Heathrow big, but it's like all of Heathrow big, not like Terminal 5 or 4 big, but all of Heathrow big. It's a huge airport. Or Frankfurt big, but bigger than Frankfurt. It's a massive airport. So we're there. And because, I'm flying Turkish Airlines, I'm Star Alliance Gold, platinum status on United Airlines. I'm in the Turkish Airlines lounge. And this lounge is nice. It's a real nice lounge. And they got chefs there, dudes with the white hats slicing up lamb. Got other people there, mixologists making up drinks. All right. I wasn't drinking alcohol because, I wasn't doing that. But I ate an uncomfortable amount of olives. I'll tell you that. I had more than my share of salad because, vegan business. So I'm enjoying myself and I curl up and I get some sleep. And then I just randomly start talking to people because, there's only so many videos I can do about me sitting in an airport for 17 and a half hours. So I ended up meeting these two nurses. One of them was a Polish lady who was a nurse in New York City. The other lady was from Atlanta and was also working in New York City. And yeah, good times chatting with them. And they were both on a safari in South Africa. And they ended up having to go back to New York City. And I think they were on the same flight that I was on. Or they were on a flight going to, I want to say Newark, New Jersey. But they were leaving around the same time as me, but not on my flight. There was another dude that I met in the lounge, and he asked if he could borrow my phone charger because he didn't have a phone charger that he could use, and Turkish Airlines didn't have one. So I said, "Yeah, man, no problem." He was sitting right across from me, and was what it was. So we were talking. I'm like, "Bro, where are you coming from?" He goes, "Man, I've been traveling for the past 4 days." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, seriously? Where'd you come from? He goes, "Man, I was on a hiking expedition in Kathmandu, Nepal." "Bro, where are you going to?" He goes, "Bro, I'm just trying to get back into Canada. I lived a couple of hours outside of Toronto." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, man." I'm like, "So where have you been all this time?" He goes, "Well, my first flight, I left Kathmandu and ended up flying to Abu Dhabi. I was in Abu Dhabi for a day and a half, flew from Abu Dhabi to here. I've been here for about another day and a half. And then I'm on that 4:30 flight or 3:45 flight out of here going to Toronto." I'm like, "What happens if you don't get into Toronto?" "Then I'll have to fly out to San Francisco and then fly from San Francisco into Toronto." Turns out the direct flight to San Francisco, I'm sorry, direct flight to Toronto ended up getting canceled. So this dude was in Kathmandu, Nepal, hanging out with yaks, climbing mountains, living in a yurt, whatever. He travels. They're like, yo, you got to get out. Goes to Abu Dhabi, stays there for a day and a half. He's in Istanbul, Turkey for a day and a half. Then he's got to fly from Istanbul, Turkey, all the way to San Francisco. That is far. That is far. Then you got to fly back across the continent again to get to Toronto. I thought my flight, my business, sitting there for 17 and a half hours and then having a, I don't know, Istanbul to Dulles is, gosh, about a 13, maybe a 14-hour flight, 13-hour flight. It's a long flight. It's not one of these things where you're flying from LA to New York and you're there. No, this is long as shit. Or even New York to London, you can there in 6-7 hours. It's far. So this is a long flight, and everybody's legitimately worried. People are like, yo, what are we going to do? Are we going to get back into the country? We end up boarding the plane. Everybody gets on, and this plane is packed tight like sardines. Squeezed in. People are wearing masks. We're in this thing tight. Plane lands in Dulles. And if you've ever been to Dulles Airport, you know the semi-nightmare that Dulles is. And as an aside, Dulles Airport is named for the former Secretary of State of the United States, a guy named John Foster Dulles. And if you look up the history of him and his brother, there's a strong argument that the name Dulles Airport should be removed from that airport, given their connections with the military-industrial complex and some of the nefarious actions that they've been involved with, including their alleged involvement in the assassinations of JFK. But that's another conversation for another time. That might even be a future Joe and Cat Chats. We'll see. But flew back into Dulles Airport, and I got global entry, so I don't have to wait in that long customs line. I just scan my fingerprints, get the blue slip of paper, hand it to the custom guy. He looks at me, I look at him. We exchange less than kind looks at each other because that's what these TSA people do to you. I looked at him like, kept it moving. My bag is the second bag off the carousel, because when you have a certain level of status with United Airlines or Turkish Airlines or your Star Alliance Gold, they give you priority bag tags. So they take your bags first of the airplane and put them on the cart first so you can get them and go. So we're back in America now. And there is none of the people working at the airport are wearing masks. Nobody's handing out hand sanitizer to make sure your hands are clean. Nobody's doing anything anywhere. There were more bomb-sniffing dogs sniffing people's bags than there were people handing out hand sanitizer or masks or alcohol wipes to make sure everything was okay and safe. Nobody knew what the hell was going on, and nobody gave a shit. It was like, what are people doing here? What are we doing here? What is happening here? And when can I get out of this country so I can go back to Canada and try to restart my life? Borders have been closed, and that next night or the next day, the borders were just shut down across the country. Everything was just shut down. So my objective now is to get from Dulles Airport to Baltimore, Maryland, because I had to go back to my parents. I couldn't go anywhere else. Couldn't stay with my younger brother in Spokane, Washington. I couldn't go back to Winston-Salem because I gave up the apartment that I had there in order to move to Canada in June of 2019. So back to my parents' place on the north side of Baltimore. For those that live in the DMV and you understand how much of a pain in the ass it is to get from Dulles Airport to Baltimore by car, imagine trying to do that now with public transportation. And everything is on a Sunday schedule, and they cut the Sunday schedule even more because of the coronavirus pandemic. So travel was a chore, to say the least. And the Silver Line that connects Dulles is the line that takes you out to Dulles. The train stop to the Silver Line to Dulles hasn't been finished yet. So in order to get from the end of the Silver Line to Dulles, or actually really from Dulles to the end of the Silver Line, you got to catch a shuttle bus. And now these shuttle buses aren't running every 10 or 15 minutes. That drops you off at Wheelie Avenue. It's Wiehle Avenue, Wheelie Avenue. And then you take Silver to the red, couple stops to the red, transfer over at Gallery Place, Union Station. Then once you're at Union Station in Washington, D.C. on the red line, you can kind of go anywhere you need to go, especially headed north towards Baltimore. So I get on the train. I get on the bus, and this bus shows up. It's a $5, $6 bus ride. Get on the bus, go back, get on the bus. Drops off at Wheelie Avenue, and I'm waiting for a train, a Silver Line train from Wheelie Avenue that will go back into Washington D.C. because I'm in Northern Virginia at this point. Waiting for this train. Train shows up eventually. Get on the train, and there's nobody on this train. Now, Sunday nights on DC Metro, the trains are usually a bit sparse, but there's people on them. There was nobody on this train and nobody at this train station but me and the train station attendant in that box or that hexagon that's there. It's sort of this sort of panopticon style of structure where they can see everything around them. They just got to swivel in the chair and look around. They got cameras. It's all of it. So I get in, they change it over at I think it's Gallery Place where the silver and red meet. Changed over there. Gallery Place, couple of train stops, Union Station. Get into Union Station, and I'm like, okay, now I'm in Washington D.C. I still have to get to Baltimore. There is a train that you could take called the MARC train, MARC. It stands for Maryland Area Rapid Commuter Train, MARC train. And the MARC trains were on a Sunday schedule, but they changed it up to a holiday schedule. And holiday schedules are the worst. That means you're getting a train once every couple of hours if you're lucky. So I just missed the MARC train going to Baltimore by about 10 minutes. So the next MARC train was leaving at 4 in the morning, Monday morning. Here it is Sunday night. It's now 10:30, 11 o'clock Sunday night. I just missed the 10:45. I think it was the 10:45. So it's now a little bit after 11. Just missed the 11 o'clock mark. Um, now what? Next MARC leaves at 4 in the morning. Uber's super expensive. I mean, and everybody was being surcharged because it was the pandemic. Everyone's getting surcharged. I mean, I've taken an Uber from Dulles to Baltimore without a surcharge, and that's a $110, $120 Uber to downtown Baltimore. So, nah, I was like, okay, well, shit. Got to hold on to whatever money I do have because I don't know when I'm going to be working again. Whatever's going to happen. So, ended up getting up to Baltimore. The buses. Now, if you've ever been to Union Station, there are buses that are on the next level above from where the MARC trains are. You just take the escalator up the steps, go past the Cinnabon and all the food places that were already closed. Go up, you're there. I got on a Greyhound bus. Both bus wasn't even working. Greyhound bus, and I used to live in downtown Baltimore. The Greyhound bus terminal is not where you would get the Bolt buses. The Greyhound buses are a block or two south of where the baseball and football stadiums are. The Bolt bus is a block away from the train station. I know the train station quite well because I used to live on the corner of Reed and Cathedral Streets in downtown Baltimore. Easy walk up to the train station. But here I am, like south of the downtown area by the football stadium and where the bus terminal is. So take the bus, and the bus driver was driving slow, and they were only letting on, I think, 10 people at a time to make sure people were spread apart. There's about 15 of us that are trying to get on this bus. So we get on the bus and we're driving. And this is maybe a 40-minute bus ride. Take the bus, cut across Southeast DC, take it up to New York Avenue up to DC 295, DC 295 to Maryland 295, Baltimore Washington Parkway, drive along that stretch of road, make the right turn by the gas stations, go behind the casino, you're by the bus terminal. This bus took about an hour. This is maybe a 40-minute drive. 35 if you're a slightly irresponsible driver. This bus took an hour. I'm like, all right, it's now 1:15 in the morning, Sunday morning. I've been traveling since I've been traveling since it's Monday morning, 1:15 in the morning, Monday morning. I've been traveling since Saturday night, 8:30. Here it is, Monday morning, 1:15 in the morning. I'm like, okay, now what? So cabs were all nobody was riding cabs because all the cabs were shut down. People were just like that. We're not doing cabs. And the buses, there's no easy way to get a bus from where I was to where my parents' house is. It just isn't. There just isn't. So Uber. I waited probably another 45 minutes to an hour for an Uber, which is uncharacteristic because it's Uber. You call up an Uber, it's like, yo, all right, Uber's beep, beep out in front of your house waiting for you or wherever you are. They show up in 10 minutes. Uber's like, nah, we're going to be a while and we're surcharging you. There's like 2.5 or 3.0 surcharge. So a $20 Uber ride ended up being close to $60. And my man it was driving, I think, a Toyota Prius. My man had the plastic separating him and me, like just plastic. Not like the plastic like you would see in a cab that's permanent. Like a piece of plastic. And yeah, he spraying alcohol in the car and everything. I was like, yeah, I mean, his car smelled like a hospital. So I ended up getting into the car. Um, he was driving, told him where to go. It's like, look, go up here, Charles Street, take it all the way up. Charles Street, make the right on 33rd, left on Lock Raven Boulevard. Go past the hospital. It's right there on the left. All right. Ended up getting back to my parents' place at about 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning. And quite honestly, nothing has ever been the same since I got back to the United States. And gosh, I I vividly remember having just hanging out with Irvin, Vedran, and Ajin. We were hanging out, having some beverages a day or two before I was about to get on this plane and come back to the United States. And Ajin's like, "Yo, you sure you want to go back to the States?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know, man. I'm not sure." Damn. Irvin's like, "Yo, can you get back into Canada?" I'm like, "Nah. Borders are closed. Everything's shut down." And the only reason I know I couldn't get back into Canada because I went to the on my birthday, I went to the embassy, the United States Embassy in Sarajevo, and it's a rather sizable building. There's a grocery store not too far away, and the mall's down the street. And that mall's got a really nice pizza place, wonderful pizza place, actually. My gosh, yeah, the fries were good there too. So I just remember being there, and I'm like, and the dude who was asking me questions at the embassy was like, "Were you trying to get back to?" And like, "Here and this and that." Turns out homeboy was from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he was stationed there, so he was living there. He's like, "Yeah, we're not leaving anytime soon because the country's not letting anybody who's been overseas for a long period of time back into the United States. They'll let you back in, but they're not going to let me back in until everything's sort of cleared up." I don't have a whole lot of regrets in life because regret is poison. Regret really is poison. It really honestly is. But I know I've said this in a bunch of my conversations. Um, Knowing what I know now, there's no way I would have gotten back on that plane to come back to the United States. There's no way, no how, no chance. I would have I would have figured it out over there in Sarajevo, or what I would have tried to do is my beloved and my dearest cousin. And there's a few of you out there, you know who you are. Out to my cousin Onika, um, my dear cousin Jillian, who I always call Jillian because I'm so used to hearing our grandmother call her that. Jillian. So yeah, Jillian, she lives in Malta, and she's one of the few people I know who's been to more countries than me. I mean, she's from Carnival Cruise Line, and yeah, Jillian, yeah, she's amazing. Jillian's awesome, and she was like, "Joe, just come to Malta, come to Malta, come to Malta. You know, I got an extra room in my place. We can figure it out." And Malta, I've been to Malta before. I played a show there years ago in Sliema. Great times in Malta. Hung out in Gozo. Um, the next island, one of the there's 5 islands that make up Malta, but only 3 of them have people. And Gozo is one of the other islands. You take a ferry over there, and it's gorgeous. It's paradise. Oh, it's amazing. So, I knowing what I know now, I should have, if I could rewind till about March 16th of last year, mm, there's no way I would have not gotten on that plane and come back to the United States. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it because this entire country's in total shambles right now. I wouldn't have done it. I would have figured it out over there. I would have figured out the whole passport situation with my UK passport, which I finally have, and try to piece something together over there. Because there's no way in hell I would have come back to the United States. Not for this. Jesus Christ. And yes, there are plenty of countries in Europe now that are going back under lockdown again. I know certain parts of Paris and other arrondissements are dealing with they're dealing with lockdowns again. Germany's going back under lockdown. I know Serbia is back under lockdown again. It's a bunch of countries that are going back under lockdown for what is being described as the quote unquote third wave, the third wave. And there's talk of potentially a fourth wave, potentially going through Europe because of the different variants of the coronavirus. Conversely, the United States is beginning to open up certain jurisdictions. Not everyone has been vaccinated, and we just got a stimulus package that, if you break down the money of $300 a week per hour, a 40-hour work week, pays everybody $7.50 per hour, and the minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. So, and in Florida, in Miami, Florida, this past weekend, Miami, Florida was designated as a state of emergency because of all the spring break people not adhering to physical distancing regulations. So I can thoroughly see a quote unquote third wave of the coronavirus coming back to the United States sometime if we're not being safe, being responsible. I have my share of my share of concerns about the vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine was banned in a bunch of countries in Europe this last week, but then got reapproved. So yeah, I'm not hopeful. I'm not hopeful, but again, knowing what I know now, I should have stayed overseas. I should have stayed overseas because Malta's really nice this time of year. In fact, Malta's nice any time of the year, especially now. It's springtime, and you know the beaches are wonderful. And I could have figured something out over there, but once this whole shit's over, Zoom, gone, gone. Not dealing with this, man. Not dealing with this. Not dealing with this. I mean, hell, I left the United States before this pandemic began. The only reason I'm back here now is because I can't get back to where I was before. And all of my equipment, all my turntables, mixer, monitor speakers, microphone, a couple of hundred records, books, all of that stuff's still up there. All of it. All of it. The crazy part is when my stuff was being stored at my friend's apartment, in his apartment complex, there's a storage unit, and the storage unit got broken into, and 2 suitcases of my clothes were stolen. This is 2 or 3 days after I got back to the United States. So, to make matters worse, two suitcases full of my clothes, of basically all the clothes that I own, were stolen. And the only clothes that I had with me was what I brought to Europe, and I didn't pack a big bag going to Europe because I knew I was going to be traveling around a bunch of cities and countries in Europe. But then Europe decided to close down. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Here's what I do know. I know that I don't know what the music industry or club life is going to look like post pandemic. I know there's a bunch of clubs that have closed down as a result of COVID-19, and not closed down temporarily because of a lack of business. I'm talking closed permanently. Couple that I know of off the top of my head and I know people involved in both these venues quite well. The U Street Music Hall in Washington, D.C., shut down permanently, closed for business. Hi-Fi Club in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a city that's quite close to my heart with a lot of people I care about in that city and surrounding environs, shut down permanently, not opening up again. I have also heard that I think that Habitat in Calgary is shut down also, another club that I know quite well. And the people up there after the Sub Chakra crew, you all know what it is. I think they're shut down also. So I said this before and I'll say it again in previous live and direct chats. Even if we come back, what are we coming back to? What are we coming back to? What is it going to look like? What's it going to look like? And sure, there might be places in the United States that might reopen. But what if you're a touring artist that wants to travel overseas and you've got a US passport and you can't travel overseas because you have a US passport and you need a digital passport or some sort of stamp stating that you have been vaccinated? What's that going to look like for people who have only only a US passport? What's it going to look like for people who live in the UK with Brexit? And now they can't travel to the US because of not only tightened visa restrictions, but because of tightened entry restrictions. And many countries across continental Europe have restricted or outright banned travel from the UK to the other parts of the EU. So I don't know what all of this is going to look like. I don't know what all of this is going to look like. All I know is I miss playing music. I miss playing music dearly. I guess part of the journey of life is figuring out what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. And I had a job counselor tell me this. She said, Joe, it's not about finding a job and it's not about necessarily pursuing your passions. You need to find an occupation. I was like, occupation? She said, yes. You need to find something that you enjoy doing that could be your job and that you're passionate about. And quite honestly, one of the few things that I was really passionate about that I enjoyed doing, obviously wasn't making a whole lot of money doing it, Jesus, but I enjoyed doing it. The juice is worth the squeeze. It's playing music, traveling around and running through airports from gate to gate to get on an airplane and fly again and all of that. I miss that. I miss being around people. I miss the thrill of being in front of a crowd of people and getting ready to play a bunch of music that they never heard before, or a room of people, or a field of people. I miss all of that. But more than anything, it's not just the music that I miss. It's being around the people. It's being outside the venue and chopping it up with people before the show and saying hi and people talking about music and taking pictures with people and leaving people on messages on people's voicemails or or filming quick videos for Instagram or sound check. It's all of that. And that's the shit that I miss the most. It's not even about playing the shows. The shows is just that's just that's just fun. That's just fun. That's just fun. The real stuff that I miss are the people. The people. And I'm hoping I can get back to that and hoping we all can get back to that. Said all I wanted to say today. I'm gonna make some food, make some lunch, actually, not food. Do something else today. Peace and love to all. Parker Daddy loves you. Bye, everybody.